Recording in progress.
Well, good evening or afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this snapshot of Focus for 2021 and 2022. We're glad you were able to join us. I'm Scott Pike, co-founder of InfoCISCON, and we're celebrating 25 years of eye care service to ISCON Guatemala. We'd like to share with you some successes of our last year and hopes and goals for 2022. In this presentation, which should take about 35 minutes, you'll meet and hear from our board members and see our dedicated workers in Guatemala. Each board member will be presenting you with a different aspect of our program, often based on their experiences working with the people we serve, including information about how we spend your money, the languages and culture of ISCON, a video tour of our new clinic, presentations of our patients' experiences receiving care, facts about you, our donors, and our goals for 2022. If you have questions as we go along, type them into the chat box and we'll do our best to answer them at the end. Also, at the end of the presentation, you're invited to join one of our breakout rooms for an opportunity to meet our board members, ask questions, and offer any ideas or advice you may have for us. We're always open for new ideas. Now, I'm sure each of us can recall some event, place, or person in your life which has changed the course of your life. A change in your future path or your focus. I was lucky to capture such a moment in my life on camera. It was 1996, and I was visiting a remote rural village in northwestern Guatemala. Sitting before me was a subsistence farmer, Pedro Chom, telling a story of his recent life. In 1982, the Civil War in Guatemala came to his village, and the soldiers killed 17 people, killed the animals, burned all the homes. The villagers fled into the jungle. Pedro and his family hid out in caves and moved constantly to avoid the marauding soldiers. After 2 months facing starvation, poor health, they escaped into Mexico as refugees, where they remained for more than a decade. They were allowed to peacefully return to their homes in 1993-94 and began the process of rebuilding. Pedro worked hard clearing his land and planting crops in order to feed his family. All this work was done by hand, and at the same time, he also volunteered in his village working as a health promoter. His village, like all the others in ISCON, had no doctor, no electricity, no running water, and limited access to any type of healthcare. Village health promoters were the backbone of health services. One healthcare need completely lacking at that time was eye care, a need that I knew something about. And it was easy for me to see that two big differences between Pedro's life and mine were privilege and opportunity. His lack of them and my abundance of them. With Pedro's dedication and hard work and my access to eye care resources, the following year, he and I started what has become InfoCISCON, an organization working to make eye care affordable and accessible to the people of ISCON Guatemala. We've come a long way since then, as you will see in the next few minutes. It's taken a lot of people to achieve our successes. One of our continual challenges is dealing with other languages and a different culture. So now I'd like to call on Ali Durbin, whose knowledge and skills in this area have been invaluable for our project. Ali?
It's so wonderful to see all of you. My name is Ali Durbin. I'm from Needham, Massachusetts. I have lived in Guatemala for 22 years, working primarily on cross-cultural projects, human rights, and social justice, and particularly with the sister relationship between Needham and the community of Santa Maria Ceja in the Ixcan. I'll describe a bit of the cultural context and historical background for our work. Most of our patients at Enfoque Ixcan are bilingual, speaking Spanish and a Mayan language. 24 indigenous languages are spoken in Guatemala. The country is home to a wealth of vibrant indigenous culture and wisdom. The Mayas are known for their accomplishments and inventions in mathematics and astronomy, agriculture and governance, literature and architecture. Many of our patients are survivors of the genocide that the Guatemalan state committed against Maya peoples in the 1980s as part of the Scorched Earth campaign. Pedro Chom was one of the survivors of that genocide. He and other courageous survivors have spoken up to tell their stories and seek justice. Thanks to their decades-long efforts, Guatemala made history in 2013 for being the first country in the world to convict a former head of state for genocide by a court in the same country where the crimes took place. To give you a firsthand sense of the Maya worldview, I will share a poem written by Cirilo Hernandez, a Quiché Maya teacher, in honor of the recently celebrated Mayan New Year. Heart of the sky, heart of the earth, we thank you for our lives and for our ancestors' legacy. We give thanks for the earth, our mother, who grants us existence and sustenance. For water, which quenches our thirst and cleanses our bodies. For air, which grants us life-giving breath and balances our being. For fire, which gives us energy and hope in the face of adversity. We thank the mountains and stones, the plants, flowers, and fruits, the rivers, lakes, and seas, the birds, animals, and insects, the hills and valleys, clouds and rain, the sun and the moon. They all represent the divine spirit of the creator and begetter of life. We ask them to enlighten our path and heal our hearts, bodies, and minds. Grant us the strength and wisdom to live in peace and harmony with all of creation. Thank you. Now I am very excited to share with you a video tour of our brand new clinic. The tour is led by our eye health promoter, Roxana Panjo Larios, filmed by Carlos Quimilla, and with appearances by our other healthcare providers. Enjoy the video.
Este es el área de espera. Aquí hay unos días para los pacientes que vengan, los acompañantes. Aquí les pasamos y vienen a esperar a que les toque su turno de consulta. Este es el área de recepción, donde tomamos los datos del paciente. Y aquí también en esta parte tomamos lo que es la limpieza visual, una distancia. Y aquí vamos buscando lo que es el grado del lente y vemos qué grado tiene. Aquí colocamos el lente para ver la graduación del lente. Y este es el área de los lentes. Los tenemos acá. Son lentes que ahora tenemos muy poco. Tenemos como los lentes 1.25, el 2.25 grados menos y más. Un instante para acá más o menos para poder colocarlos ya uno por uno, que la gente mire los estilos, la graduación, pues nosotros lo vamos viendo qué graduación necesita, pero lo que nosotros necesitamos que ellos lo tengan a la vista más que todo para que vean el estilo, la calidad, el color. de los lentes. Este otro aparato también lo utilizamos para examinar la vista, y casi es idéntico a lo que tenemos allá en el otro lado. Y aquí terminamos de ver que tiene parte del ojo también, alguna enfermedad.
My name is Brian Arvidsson. I'm an eye doctor in Olympia, Washington. I'm here this evening with my wonderful wife, Ashley, and my two boys, Austin and Elliot, who've supported me in my work with Enfoque Ishkan over the last 15 years. It's become quite a family affair, with even my dad making the trip to the Ishkan in the past. I've been on the board since 2011 and have been on over 10 trips to the Ishkan to provide vision services for the people of Guatemala. My first introduction to Scott Pike and Enfoque Ishkan was as an optometry student at Pacific University in 2004. As a member of the Amigos organization, I joined a group of optometry students and doctors for a week-long eye mission trip to the Ishkan region of Guatemala, providing vision screenings to all the students at several elementary schools and examinations to adults at the local Catholic parish or parochia. In 2004, this was only the second year that students accompanied Scott on his annual trip to Guatemala. Since that time, Enfoque Ishkan with Amigos has provided vision screenings at over 60 elementary schools, provided over 15,000 vision examinations, dispensed over 6,400 pairs of glasses, and we've identified and provided surgeries for over 560 people. We could not have accomplished this without the hard work of our eye health promoters, our donors in the Amigos organization. For me, the importance of Enfoque Ishkan is their relationship to the community. Most international missions are roving clinics. They provide valuable services, but once they're gone, there's nothing left in place for future services. I call this the give a man a fish effect. Enfoque Ishkan has a focus on the teach a man to fish principle. The connections that we formed with the people of Guatemala are the reason that I keep coming back year after year. It's my relationships with eye health promoters like Felipe and patients like Feliciana that have resulted in my continued work with EI. We're building on Enfoque Ishkan's experience in the Ishkan in hopes of building a lasting legacy. This ideological shift in mission work has led to a new era and journey, resulting in a recent new working relationship with Amigos that will enhance both of our organizations. We're excited as a board to announce an agreement between Enfoque Ishkan and Amigos that will allow us to provide even more examinations and sight restoring surgeries to the people of the Ishkan. At our last board meeting, we signed a memorandum of understanding with Amigos, which will increase the number of trips each year that we take to Guatemala and help each organization with their fundraising. Although we have not been able to travel to Guatemala for the past 2 years because of the pandemic, we are excited and blessed to have this new arrangement, which will allow us to double our efforts with the semi-annual trips to the Ishkan. At this time, I'm happy to welcome Mary Avisado, who's the current Amigos president, as she teaches us just a little bit more about Amigos and their mission.
Thank you, Brian. So hello, everyone. My name is Mary, and I joined the EI board this past year as the Amigos Eye Care student representative. We are also a nonprofit student organization at Pacific University, and like Brian said, we are a new partner of Enfoque Ishkan. I'm originally from Calgary, Alberta, but I now live in Forest Grove, Oregon, where I'm pursuing an optometry and master's degree at Pacific University. I'm very passionate about public health and providing eye care to underserved populations, so it's a privilege of mine to be this year's president of Amigos Eye Care. In the next slide, I'll show you our students that served on the Amigos board the past few years, and it's amazing how much work these students put into our organization. We currently have over 100 student members at the college and are supported by so many amazing doctors, alumni, and community members. Amigos is dedicated to providing quality vision care and eyeglasses at no cost. Established in 1975, Amigos Eye Care sent doctors and students out on over 150 international mission trips to Guatemala, Senegal, Costa Rica, and Belize, to name a few. Through these trips and other endeavors, we strive to fulfill our mission to provide eye care to underprivileged people throughout the world and locally, provide additional clinical experience to students, and promote sustainable vision care in these communities. We wouldn't be able to do this without our generous donors, volunteers, and community support. And here's a photo of our most recent trip to Guatemala a few years ago. Fingers crossed, we can head back there soon and serve the Ishkan village once again. But we've worked closely with EI for many years. Through 17 mission trips to Guatemala, we've sent out many students to serve the Guatemalans living in the Ishkan region. And we are very excited to be able to support each other in new ways through our formal partnership. Over the years, Amigos has tried to find ways to promote sustainability and continuity in our care. And our partnership with EI is one step in the right direction of where we want to be. And we're finally making our dream more tangible. Lastly, I think it's always good to have a reminder of why we do what we do. These photos were taken on Amigos trips, and it shows how important it is to have access to eye care. You can imagine the lack of quality vision and ultimately poor quality of life for this individual. We may be this person's first eye examination, and they deserve the best vision care regardless of where they are in the world. The ability to provide eye care year-round is so important, especially in cases like these, and our students who have been on these trips can attest that nothing they see in school or in clinic compares to the pathology and disease they see on these trips. It's the impact we have on these communities and on the people and their sincere gratitude for our service that reminds students why we chose this profession. You can find more information about Amigos Eye Care on our website, amigoseyecare.org, and we can't wait to support EI in their future endeavors. Now I'll pass it on to Dr. Jessica Lynch to show the patient experience seeking surgeries in San Benito.
Hello, and thank you for coming. My name is Jessica Lynch, and I'm an optometrist in private practice in Hillsboro, Oregon. I first met Dr. Pike and heard about Enfoque Ishkan when I passed through his clinic as a fourth-year intern in 2002. My first trip to Guatemala with Enfoque was in 2017, and I was lucky to spend a month in Guatemala this last October while on sabbatical. While there, my husband and I spent a week in Playa Grande at Enfoque's new clinic, and during that time we traveled with Felipe and Roxana as we took patients up north to the Visualiza Surgical Center in San Benito, Petén. On this particular trip, we had 8 patients, most of whom needed cataract surgery. Each patient brought a family member to help them. 6 of the patients were elderly, and amongst them, they spoke 4 different Mayan languages, as well as Spanish. The trip starts at 6 a.m. when the patients and family members meet at the Central Park in Playa Grande to wait for the bus. The ride is supposed to take 5 hours, but the roads are very bad, non-existent in some areas, and we got in a bit of a tight spot with a semi-truck. So on the trip we took, it was 8 hours before we reached San Benito. Due to the roads, our little incident with the semi-truck, and the wait for the ferry at Sayashe, we were late getting to the surgical center. We went straight to the hotel and agreed to meet up at 6 a.m. the next morning. The next morning, we arrived at Visualiza's Vicente Pescatore Eye Health Hospital by 6:15 a.m. and got in line. The patients lined up in front of the building as there are no appointment times. Everything is first come, first serve. At 8 a.m., they opened the doors and the patients waited their turn to be examined by the surgeon, Dr. Elkeem, and were then scheduled for surgery later in the day. Dr. Elkeem asked if I would like to watch these surgeries, and I'm really glad that I did. The equipment that he uses is very basic, and the cataract surgery doesn't look exactly like it does in the States, but he's able to do a lot with just a little. At any time, Dr. Elkeem was operating on between 3 and 4 patients. Normally, there is just a one-night stay in San Benito, but because we got there late, we needed to stay another night so that the one-day post-op exams could be performed. The town of San Benito is adjacent to the beautiful island town of Flores, Petén, and my husband and I enjoyed the extra night in such a beautiful place. The next morning also started at 6 a.m. The patients all still had their bandages on and were being helped around by their family members. By noon, Dr. Elkeem had finished all of the patients' post-ops, and they were given their post-surgical instructions in a group. Once done, we loaded the bus and headed back to Playa Grande. I felt very lucky that a surgery trip was happening the same week that I was in Guatemala working at our clinic. I had seen pictures and knew the basics of the trip, but it was another thing to see how difficult it is for the Ishkan people to get healthcare that in the US is so routine. The long bus ride combined with the heat and the dust make the journey a tiring one. However, the patients never complained and instead were so grateful to have the opportunity to have their vision back. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your generous support that makes these surgical trips possible. Thank you so much, not only for your generosity, but for taking the time with us today. Now I'd like to introduce a video showcasing our eye health promoters providing an eye exam.
¿En qué puedo ayudarle? Cuénteme.
Yo vengo a la consulta, dice que aquí es la clínica de ojo.
Sí, aquí nos dedicamos especialmente a verificar los problemas de la vista. Usted viene a una consulta. ¿Primera vez que viene o ya ha venido otras veces?
Pues primera vez vengo acá,
Primera
he
vez.
ido a otro lado, pero no he entendido mi problema.
Vamos a ver, vamos a verificar entonces a ver cuál es su problema. ¿Cuál es su nombre?
Pedro Chontum,
¿Cuántos años tiene?
tengo 60 años,
70. ¿De qué aldea nos visita?
de Santa María Tejada.
Santa María, Tejada. Muy bien. Bueno, entonces hágame el favor de sentarse aquí, mire, vamos a ver la agudeza, a ver hasta dónde alcanza a leer. ¿Sí sabe leer usted o conoce las letras?
Sí, conozco.
Sí, siéntese aquí, por favor. Vamos a dar la puerta para que no le afecte la claridad. ¿Sabe leer, me dijo?
Sí,
Entonces vamos a ver este cartel de aquí. ¿Sí? Hágame el favor de agarrar esta paletita con esta mano. Quítese la gorra, por favor, préstame. Permítame. Póngaselo aquí. Y me dice si alcanza a ver la primera letra que está aquí arriba.
solo miro el negro, no miro.
No identifica la letra.
No, una sombra lo miro yo.
Va. Vamos a ver el otro ojo ahorita. Permítame. Ahora aquí. ¿Y con ese ojito alcanza a ver la primera letra o nada?
Sí, miro un poquitito.
¿Qué letra es?
Parece que es una E.
Una E. ¿Y la de aquí abajo?
Ya no alcanzo a ver.
¿Ya no alcanza a
No
verlo?
alcanzo a ver.
Muy bien.
Muy bien.
Ahora me puedes sentarse aquí, ¿ves? Siéntese. No, listo, hágame el favor de colocar aquí su barbilla, mira. Coloque su barbilla aquí y me pega bien la frente aquí, por favor. Despacio.
Muy bien.
Ponga su mano aquí para que sea más cómodo. Así. Igual el otro lado. Si me mira la lucecita esta, por favor, esta luz roja. ¿Sí?
Sí.
My name is Dwight Fleck. I've known Scott since the 5th grade at Washington Elementary in Billings, Montana. I was first drawn to the project because it was very important to my longtime buddy and seemed like a good thing he was doing, and especially how he was doing it. When I made my first trip to Santa Maria Teja and met the people, saw the impact of his project, I wanted to do what I could to support it. I've been the treasurer of Enfoque Ishkan since 2006. Now let's take a look at the finances. On the left side of this slide, you will see key financial results from last year. 3 things happened. Number 1, donations were up. The total income was $62,000, of which the pure cash donations were $57,000, setting an all-time record high. Number 2, our expenses were down. COVID continued to suppress the eye surgeries and eye health services, which combined made up 80% of the total expenses. Net income was almost $36,000, which set an all-time record by a long ways. And this is definitely going to be needed as we recover from COVID this year. Number 3, we had, in addition to the expenses, capital expenditures consisting of the completion of the construction of the clinic, which you've seen, and purchasing equipment, which you've also seen. As the footnote shows, we did have offsetting grants and designated donations to cover a portion of the capital expenditures. On the right side of the slide, you see last year's expenses in blue and this year's budget in red. Now, I don't like busy slides, and if this looks busy to you as it does to me, just squint your eyes until you can't see the numbers, because it's really the colors that are telling the story. They're painting a picture of where we were last year and where we're going this year. And most likely that tall red stack representing the budgeted eye surgeries jumped out at you. This sizable increase is being driven by three factors. Number one, the surgical fee for cataract surgery jumped in 2021. It doubled from 101 per eye to 202 per eye. Number two, we are instituting the lease of a bus to transport the surgery patients to the surgical facility in San Benito that Jessica showed you. We pay half the cost of the bus plus 100% of the hotel expenses. Number three, we have set a goal for this year of 115 or more surgeries versus the 37 that we had actually last year. The eye health services is up a bit in 2022, as Roxana, who you've met, will be working 8 days per month. And the other areas are fairly flat. Now I would like to introduce you to our newest board member, Tony Lopez.
Thanks, Dwight. Hi, my name's Tony Lopez. I want to take a few minutes to introduce myself and as one of the newest board members, share a bit about why I'm so passionate about this organization and its mission. I have deep Guatemalan roots. My parents immigrated from Guatemala in the 60s. My grandmother is from Coban, which is right near the clinic. I have an adopted younger brother who's about 20 years younger than me, from Guatemala. And around 20 years ago, my mother returned to Guatemala and now lives in Quetzaltenango. This photo that you see here was taken in her house with my daughter, who's now 15, and a couple of my many aunts, uncles, and cousins are in the photo. So while I was born and raised in the Midwest, I am a proud Guatemalan. And I grew up visiting there. I have like incredible memories. Little person lighting firecrackers with my cousin and marching in posadas. In college, I would often bring friends back to Guatemala because I was so proud of the place. And it also happens to be a great place to travel when you're a struggling college student with limited financial means. It's an incredible place, amazing people, fascinating culture. But like many Latin American countries, its history is super complex and challenging. Extreme poverty is pervasive, especially in areas like Ixcan, where EI does its work. There's real need for basic services like treating preventable blindness and basic eye care. Well, after college, I became an entrepreneur and spent the last 25 years in technology, building products for companies like Apple and Facebook. I've been super fortunate and lucky in my career and life, which is part of the reason why I feel such a responsibility to give back. And as I've done more philanthropic work, I've come to understand what matters most to me and where I felt like I was having the most impact. And it was around this time that I learned about EI through Facebook. I was super intrigued from the beginning. My discussions with Scott and the rest of the team that you're meeting today helped me understand the importance of the mission and the passion that this group brings to Guatemala. It's truly incredible. So the thing that attracted me to EI was simple. It's a focused nonprofit doing life-changing work with Guatemala's most in need. I know there's many options for philanthropy and where you spend your time, but I wanted to work with a group that was making a real difference, a group that used every dollar to further their mission and partners with the local community to provide services through the local health promoters. As mentioned before, I was teaching people to fish. I love that part about it. So I'm like super excited to join this group and with the help of all of you, further EI's mission. So next I wanted to share just a little bit about the areas that EI is focusing on and our goals for 2022. The main focus is on providing services to the community. By performing 500 eye exams, we're trying to get back to pre-pandemic levels. This is super challenging given the uncertainty of the COVID situation in Guatemala, but we're cautiously optimistic that we can hit that goal. We also plan to perform 155 surgeries. This is a huge, huge milestone. It would bring us to 1,000 total surgeries performed over the course of EI's history. That's 1,000 lives significantly improved. It's incredible. We're working with working in conjunction with our partner in Guatemala, Visualeza, and on the periodic visits to the clinic, we always strive to further develop our healthcare providers, who are the main source of the service and our main connection to the community. Last but not least, every year, a significant portion of the effort goes into fundraising so we continue to provide these much needed services. This year is no different as we set a challenging goal of raising $48,000. Efforts like this virtual meeting, and of course, all of you are incredibly important and critical to helping us continue this important work. So 2022 is an exciting and challenging year. It marks a return to pre-pandemic levels and a return to the community impact that we've been having. We're excited to make that happen and see the new clinic realize its potential. I mentioned earlier how one thing I loved about Enfoque Ixcan is that the work happens through the local community by training eye healthcare providers like Carlos, Roxana, and Felipe. We rely on other Guatemalans like Pedro, who counsel us on local nonprofit legal matters. We're so thankful and proud of our team in our Guatemala. None of this would be possible without their dedication and passion. And from the bottom of my heart, I wanted to thank all of you for playing a vital role in helping us do what we do. So next, I'd like to introduce our board member, Amanda Terrace.
Hey, thanks, Tony. Like Tony said, my name is Amanda Terrace. When I'm not volunteering with Enfoque Ixcan, I juggle a busy life with my husband, 2 children, 2 dogs, and an instructor, and am an instructor in the College of Business at Oregon State University. So I had the privilege of volunteering with Enfoque Ixcan for the past 16 years. In 2006, I traveled to Guatemala and met up with the Needham, Massachusetts delegation. And during my time there, I was able to meet with patients and interview them about their eye care needs and experiences. You know, hearing those patients' stories was really empowering and showed me that one group's commitment really can make a difference. Over the years, Enfoque Ixcan has become kind of a family experience for us. You see here, stuffing and sticking newsletters is a way of life in our household. So I do apologize if your address sticker is a little wonky or if your tabs on the newsletter aren't quite perfect. We're always sort of working on quality control here. But 3 times a year, EI shares patient stories and experiences through that EI newsletter. You can also learn more about the patients, the healthcare promoters, our volunteers, and donors on a more regular basis through our Instagram, Facebook, and also the EI website. It's really been amazing to see more and more EI donors and friends connecting with us over social media. So with this increase in connection, EI has also seen a tremendous growth in our donations. This generosity translates into additional surgeries, expanded health promoter services, and needed clinic equipment and eye care supplies. So every year we see an increase in the number of donors. We have also seen an increase in our regular donors. This is so important. Over the last 10 years, EI has had 43 donor households become regular donors, which means those families have given at 8 out of the 10 years in a row. But what's making this sustainable and this growth possible is the incredibly generous donations from friends like all of you. Over the last year, EI has not only increased its regular donors, but increased the total number of donations and the average size of donations. Discussions have even started about EI's first estate gifts. So in addition, EI has seen an increase in the number of donors who give on a monthly basis. This is incredibly important as monthly donors help us guarantee our monthly business expenses like our payroll and our utilities. So financial support of all types is important to increasing the services of EI that EI provides. So I just wanted to mention a few. So, but when I visited the Ixcan 16 years ago, I still remember Scott saying to me, EI is not about us, it's about them. It's about the community. So over these many years, the people and communities that EI has been able to support has grown. And this expansion has come because of the growth of EI's supporters, friends, and donor community. So Dwight and Tony shared with you EI's financial position and goals for the future. But all of this is possible because of the ongoing gifts of time, resources, money that EI receives. So here's just a snapshot of the many people EI has been able to help to a healthier, happier, and more full life. EI really is about community, and we are doing this together. So I, again, thank you for attending this afternoon. I'm going to send it back to Scott, and he's going to conclude our presentation.
Thank you, Amanda. And as I'm thanking you, Amanda, I want to thank you a lot for putting all this together. Each one of us put together our little piece of this presentation, and Amanda had the job of weaving that all together with the slides and the videos and editing, and it came out beautifully. So thanks, Amanda. But thanks everyone for joining us today. We hope you found this informative. Your attendance and support is so appreciated. And I want to tell you that I am blessed to have such a productive and hardworking board and the support of generous donors. In a moment, I'm going to turn it over to Dwight to field questions from the chat box. And following that, we'll go into some breakout rooms so you can get to know our board members more personally. If you've had enough and you need to go, that's fine too. We're glad you could join us today. The world is full of a lot of grief, and I hope in the last half hour or so, we've taken your mind off of that and given you something better to think about. You can read more about Infoke Ishkan, see more photos, make a donation maybe, at our website shown on the screen. Together, all of us, we're a team that makes an important difference in the world. So I hope you all stay safe and healthy and stay in touch.